So what happened? What happened to the show? Here's how you make a secret invasion. Here's how you make a show. Okay, first, get a big pile of money. How big should the pile be? I don't know. Take like the budget of Barbie, the budget of Oppenheimer. Smush those together. Take all that money and then burn it. And now you can make Secret Invasion. Because where did all that money go? What happened? There was good stuff. There was like, we had a makeup budget. And then we did episode 6 and I don't know what happened. Okay, don't worry. I'm an optimist. I got this. And before we get into this next bit, I just wanted to let you know about something that's really important that also just has me emotionally in a bit of a toss and turn. And it's that I have a Wet n Wild P.O. box that I'll be doing in August as part of a celebration for my 1 year, maybe my 2 year anniversary on Twitch. I basically have my anniversary coming up, so you can send stuff to my P.O. box, which there is an address in the video description, so you can send parcels to my P.O. box, and I'll be opening fan mail on stream. So yeah, make sure you come join me. I'll also be putting the highlights of that here on YouTube, so feel free to send in. I cannot wait to see what you send. Just make sure it's, you know, terms of service, rules appropriate for the platforms. All right, back to what I was saying. So friends, we're here to talk about Secret Invasion episode 6, and I wish that we weren't, honestly. I don't want to. I wanted to really like the show, like really badly. But it's episode 6, so we're going to talk about that. And spoiler warning, also heartbreak warning. We got to talk about some things. We got some things to talk about. Okay, so I think overall the story for Secret Invasion could have been really, really good. Like, let's just even talk about Secret Invasion in the comics. There's a lot of opportunity for us to do a good job with the story. It's a really interesting and fun story where basically Skrulls take over people on Earth, and then there's kind of like Skrulls that have been here forever. Those are the Skrulls that surprise us in the end. This had a little bit of that, but it also had a lot of things that just happen because it makes the story make sense. But we won't write them into the story. No. We will, at the end of the story, just surprise everyone with these details. And that will be the resolution. No, that's not how you do it. Everything else that the story was building up before, I guess, like the end of episode 4, really before episode 5 for me, was interesting. I was intrigued. There's a lot of relationship stuff going on. This was a spy thriller series that seemed to understand that a lot of the spy stuff is like people like bluffing, people like manipulating each other with conversation. Spies, it's not just about like pew, 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 pew. Like it's not about that entirely. Some of that exists, yep, but it's really about the power dynamic, I think, a lot of the times with spies, and manipulating that to get what you need. And I thought this series understood that. And then episode 6 happened, and it felt like everything we had built about these characters and their relationships and what's going on for them in their minds was gone. So, okay, I guess I'll break down just quickly what happens in this episode. This is the episode where I was hoping this was all going to make sense, and then it kind of did, but then also in the end, it kind of didn't. What we had to do was Fury was basically set up to go give the harvest to Gravik, and he was going to do that to try to save humanity, which seemed like a completely insane plan, so I didn't think it was his plan. Turns out it wasn't his plan, because while this is all going on, Sonya basically infiltrates the hospital where the president is and tries to basically expose Rhodey. And while that's going on over in the Russian nuclear plant, there is the confrontation between Gravik and Fury. And Gravik basically reveals his entire motivation, citing that when he was a kid and he joined up with Fury, even though Fury did kind of try to warn him that like, oh, you like shouldn't have to be a warrior, like you're too young, like it's not cool, maybe don't do that. He decided he would, and then he got upset when he had to basically kill people, which understandably that would make someone upset. But that is kind of what the missions were, and I thought you knew that and were just like tough person that could handle it. But in the end, he basically has this whole speech where he just says like, you know, I was like a kid and this thing really messed me up. And Fury's basically like, so what, it messes everyone up. And then Gravik says, yeah, but I'm the only one that's like willing to admit that, which I did think that line was kind of cool. I did think that perspective was kind of interesting. So Gravik goes on this entire rant. He's acting his heart out. And then in the end, we find out that this wasn't actually Fury, but it was Gaia pretending to be Fury, and Fury's really in America, and he shows up in the hospital, and then he's like, oh, you gotta shoot Rhodey, Mr. President. Rhodey's a Skrull. And then Rhodey's like, don't shoot me, I'm Rhodey, I'm not a Skrull. And then Fury shoots Rhodey, and then everything is resolved. And also he goes back to space with Priscilla, who joins him because apparently she's an amazing diplomat, which we find out at the end of the movie for some reason. And Skrulls are outlawed on the planet, and Fury tries to talk the president out of that, but the president's basically not having any of it, and also kind of admits that he doesn't really care about Skrulls, I think, in that conversation, because he's basically like, but there's Skrulls that we need. So Fury has no conscience at the end of this. I thought this whole series was building up to him having a conscience, but I don't know if that was the moral of the story. I think the moral of the story was sometimes too much is just too much, and less is more. I think that was the moral of the story with this series. So a few of the major issues that I had with this, which were pretty big, was one, the cinematographer feels like they went out to lunch on this episode. There were so many scenes that were just shot so poorly. I don't know. I just don't know why it was shot that way. And I guess it's also kind of an editing issue, but I really do see this as more of a cinematography issue, because just the angles that we got of some of these things. I mean, granted, they could have just been one of the many that the editor had to choose from, but the shots were just so... It's not how you shoot that scene. Like, okay, so the scene with Gravik and Fury, who ends up being Gaia, is actually a really good scene. It would be a better scene emotionally if Fury was actually Fury and not Gaia, and basically meant nothing that she said because she was just pretending to be Fury. It would be a lot better. But not knowing that at the time, I felt like the scene was actually pretty good. Although I was able to guess sort of once the machine turned on to turn Gravik into a super Skrull, with all of the powers of the Avengers and stuff from the Harvest and all that good stuff, was that, you know, Fury was still in there, which made me think, okay, so I already didn't think it was Fury, because I was like, Fury wouldn't go in there. That would be silly and wouldn't really make sense. He's definitely got another play. And I thought, well, it could be Skrull. And then I thought, well, it could be Gaia. And then it was Gaia. So I predicted that, but only like a beat before it really happened. But the main issue that I had was just that, like, just the two of them in that scene, never mind the emotional stuff that we find out later in the story, which really makes it not make sense. But the two of them in that scene are actually acting really well, I feel like. And they just made Kingsley Ben-Adir as Gravik kind of look ridiculous. Like, that was a great performance, but it was not captured well. Like, it was squandered. And I'm just so flabbergasted. I really don't know what happened or why. Also, like I said, it was clear to me that a lot of the makeup budget left, because a lot of the Skrulls and the transitions that we're having was a lot of CG. And friends, the CG does not look good here. It is not the best CG we've had. It is not even close to the best CG we've had. It is lacking. There are parts of it that look good, but for the most part, it looked pretty lacking. That was another thing that was just not good. And then, like I said, the story, which I think you kind of got with my summary, just felt very like thrown together. Like, it was just very like, there's a lot of stuff that was very Deus Ex Machina. So, I mean, Fury has that call with the president where he kind of, like I said, reveals, I'm now realizing, that doesn't care as much about Skrulls. And then Priscilla comes to see him, and then he's got this whole bit about how like, oh, we actually talked to the Kree and like they totally want to make peace now, so like you're good. And thank gosh you're the most amazing diplomat that's ever lived, Priscilla. Vera. I'm sorry, what? Why didn't you have her with you the whole time? Maybe you could have negotiated for peace earlier and we could have avoided this whole thing, and then I wouldn't have to be here talking about episode 6 after putting all this time and emotional investment into these characters and their stories without it paying off in the last episode because you just forgot everything that you built for some reason. I guess my takeaway from Secret Invasion is you don't need to have a crazy CG fight for it to be a good project. Marvel, please don't rely on that and just commit to the things that you're building. If you want Fury to have this period in his life where he's going through some realizations and realizing that, yeah, he saves the world, but there's a cost to that and he has to pay that price. Maybe just continue with that. If you want to build a whole thing with Talos and his family and Gaia and this relationship, maybe just continue. Like you have Emilia Clarke here. I would say use her a little bit more in her acting abilities. What happened? What happened? I don't know. I'm gonna keep asking myself that. I hope you enjoyed this review. I'm sorry I couldn't be more positive, but I will say that I think the acting throughout this has been very solid and there's been some pretty good writing moments. Although in this episode there was also some pretty big writing lows for me as well. But the acting, at least, I think has been really good. So, I guess that's it. All right, well, I will see you in a video where I maybe just wrap up this entire season. I don't know if I will because my heart is kind of disappointed, broken from this episode. Let me know if you would like to hear my thoughts on the full season, and I would be happy to share them with you in maybe another video. All right. Well, until next time, friends, stay nerdy.